approval of the agenda by the commissioners. Okay, Mr. Monroe.
Chairman, I'd like to add some budget amendments to the agenda. It would be underneath the consent agenda, starting with E, F, G. First one is social services appropriation of $3,719, refund for overpayment.
2007 what?
$3,719. The next one would be for the public schools. It's to appropriate money from their 28 fund in a sum of $302,550.
What's that for?
Mr. Terry.
There's a request,
What is that? It's in the packet here.
what Mr. Monroe's referring to is,
I hadn't looked at that
is
yet, I just got
an addendum on your desk. There's an attachment there that explains 2 requests, and then there's 1 request related to some engineering work for the middle school for $40-some-odd thousand that are included in that number. But again, it's a request from them to us.
You would have received this earlier. It came late, came on the 1st of the month, so that's why it was not in your packet. The
reason I asked the question is because I hadn't looked on the table yet.
No problem. The large piece of that $302,000 is security upgrades for the school. That's $230,000.
What time?
What's
42 for the middle school.
42 for the middle school.
40.
Mr. Garner just mentioned that, that's why it says upgrade drive at the planetarium is $29,950 and then $230,000 for school security, so I don't know where the 42.
There is a request that was made on the middle school project, and because that project I would say may be on hold at this point, the grant that was received for that project, the state did not fund them for those expenses, the 30-some-odd thousand and the $10,650 match from us. And I regret that I did not. I thought that was in this packet, and I apologize for that. But good catch for that. But that's what that amount is for.
Okay.
So it won't be part of the 25% match that we were making with the grant, but they're going to fund 100% of that request, or the $40-some-odd thousand with their 28 fund tax dollars, which is part of this $302,000.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Manager, I'm sorry.
No problem. Item 3. There's a budget amendment for $530,000. Excuse me, $530,554. $554. And that's to appropriate money from the CARES Act, the COVID-19 dollars that we received earlier this year, to use some of those dollars, $530,000, for the purchase of 800 megahertz radios for our sheriff's department as well as our emergency responders, EMS. The next one is $280,548. That is money going toward the municipalities that is CARES related. We were, I think it was Section Law 2080 that came out in August that says that we as the county have to give 25% of our CARES dollars to the municipalities. And so what we're asking right now is that's the total amount that they're entitled to, the $280,548. So we're going to go ahead and disperse that to these municipalities as they make their purchases. We will reimburse them using that money.
What items are included in the CARES Act that you expend money for?
Anything, Carrie, go ahead, but anything that regards, anything that's tied to, COVID-19.
So the guidance, Dr. Sims, changes almost month to month, but it's safe to say that personal protective equipment and payroll items directly related, substantially and directly related to the spread of the virus. Other protective measures like shields and things of that nature have all always been approved, and that the majority, what we're seeing are either, I think one municipality has a communications request, but I think the majority of them are looking at PPE equipment and or security type things that are related to social distancing.
Also,
And you also tell, in the meeting that we had, that money is not spent by.
December 30th.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah. And if it's used for something other than that, the county has to pay it back, right?
Which is why we're doing it on a reimbursement basis, and that's how what we've asked is, if to be safe, we've asked the municipalities to have your purchases pre-approved with us, and then that way they're not at any liability. And if it's a gray area, if it's a unique way to use that money, we forward it on to the North Carolina Pandemic Relief Office, NC Pro, to get their guidance on it.
But they are calling you on all these requests, right?
Myself or Amber Daniels, our assistant.
So we can't hold back any money for surprise, because after December 30th, we'll get the surprise.
That's one way to look at it. Yes, sir.
I just have one question regarding the new radios. I take it that all the first responders throughout the county have consented that these are the correct radios that we need?
I have a question about it too.
Okay.
I have too.
Yeah, I was gonna mention,
Looks like I hit on
that
something.
not be on the consent agenda. I was gonna say put it under administrative matters so we can talk about it, but I don't see administrative matters on here.
Yeah, that's what,
I guess because of.
We can just put it in our report.
yeah, we can move that one, cause I wanna know if they have the, officer down
Man down
program.
function. Mhm.
Yeah, is it in there?
Right now it is not. This was something that's brought up to me just today.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll take
let's move
J
it. We
out.
gonna move it.
Okay.
Yeah, take that out, put it on commissioner concerns section.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Not a problem.
Go ahead, sir.
And the last one is a grant that we received, I think at the end of last year, $50,000, Duke Energy, Emergency Services have received a grant from Duke Energy up to $50,000. We're asking to have the budget amended to reuse those dollars to, for expenses in that department.
For this year.
For this year, yes. And those were the only additions that I had for the consent agenda, and then one to administrative matters.
All right, we heard of the item that was added, that was A through J, and G was the, well, you all wrote them down just like I did, so you know what they are. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve it with the fact that we're gonna move, right?
J been taken out.
Been taken out, I make a motion.
A second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, let me know by aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have our consent agenda, A through J items. Do we have a motion?
Chairman Street, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the noted changes.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And we had 2 seconds on that motion, Dr. Sims and Commissioner Stedman. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, we'll move right along to our appearance. Mr. Lowry, I forgot, James Lowry.
Mr. Chairman, we're on
Yeah.
item
On
number
the
3.
appearances,
We're on the appearances,
Miss
Miss
Betty
Huntley.
Huntley.
Betty.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, appearance, Miss Betty Huntley.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I would like to thank Mr. Monroe and also County Commissioners for taking the time to invite me out tonight. I am Betty Huntley, Executive Director of Waysboro Housing Authority. My purpose stated this evening will be concerned about affordable housing. Now, I know that we hear a lot on the media and publicly about maintaining affordable housing in the various counties. Right now, I'm here to inform you that there is a housing shortage in Anson County, particularly for our seniors. Currently, Waysboro Housing Authority has an estimate of 90+ applications for seniors waiting for housing at the present time. And we're talking about affordable housing for low to moderate income families. With this in mind, there is a need for this population. The Housing Authority has been offered an opportunity to be a part of this solution. Trent Westmore, owner of Laura Commons Apartment, a senior complex that is located at 202 Laura Avenue. How many of you are familiar with this senior complex? I do have some pictures for those who not aware or who's never seen it. If you will please pass. That's one of the buildings there. This is a senior complex that was built in probably 2002. And at the present time, Trent Westmoreland is ready to sell this property due to other obligations. He has offered to sell the property to Waysboro Housing Authority, and in the amount of $740,000. We were able to negotiate this price down because at first he stated $900,000. But when we went in to do a research on the property and do appraisal, the appraisal value that we have on file stated that the property is now valued at $740,000.
Is this somebody from Anson County that owns this?
His father,
No, is he from Anson
no,
County now?
he's not from Anson County. He lives in Wilmington.
I don't believe he wants to sell this property there.
740 is the appraisal, and what you say you
Yes.
asked him?
At first, originally, he asked $999,000.
But I said, I don't believe he wants to sell it real bad.
But his father is originally from Anson County, Al Westmoreland, who is now deceased.
The reason I asked that question is I wanted to know if he had a wealth of knowledge about Anson County, our finances, our needs, our difficulties that we're having, particularly now, when he asked for $900,000 for that.
I doubt it because of the fact that his father had more tie to Anson County than he did. He's a contractor that lives in Wilmington, North Carolina. And right now, due to his obligation with his business, in other words, he's no longer interested in the property. However, he has a pool of investors, and they want to make sure that this property is maintaining affordable housing for seniors. Now, I can say this. He has 2 other investors that he has communicated with. And if those investors purchase this property, they have no desire to maintain the housing for affordable seniors. That means 2 things. Either the seniors and their house, 24 families, will have to relocate and maybe move in with family members or move elsewhere, or they'd be without housing. Now, one of the goals of the Housing Authority is to maintain affordable housing. And now with the COVID-19 challenges, we are doing everything possible to keep our families in place. So this is the reason why I'm here now. We have also been negotiating with Gary Von Cannon, with BB&T Bank, now Truist, in the Warrenboro area, to seek funding to purchase this property. At the present time, tentatively approved, BB&T has approved $458,000 for the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority has set aside funds in the amount of $50,000 to add to this, with a total of $508,000. Now, we have started from the bottom, and we're building our revenue up to purchase this property. However, we are short $232,000 and seeking additional funds or grants in order for us to purchase this property. and maintain affordable housing in our county. And this is why I'm here today, this is county, it should be a county collaboration interest. We do not want our seniors to lose the current housing that we have. But right now, the housing authority do not have the buildings and the housing availability to house all those 24 seniors. This complex, we have had it appraised, we visit, and the families are already receiving some assistance through the housing authority under the Section 8 program. So therefore, they are able to maintain their rent according to their income. However, if private investors come in and purchase it, the Section 8 portability will be voided because they have no interest in maintaining affordable housing. Their interest is their investment and their dollars.
How many times have you counter-offered this man's, price?
This is my second time. I have been working on this project ever since the beginning of 2019. June 2019, we backed out of it tentatively because the resources was not available.
Did you tell him how badly you needed it?
Well, yes, he's aware of it. He's very much aware of it. That's when he came back and reemphasized that he would like to carry out his family dreams of maintaining affordable housing. And I stated to him, you need to give us adequate enough time to start doing research. Now, we have researched several grants funding, and I don't know if you all are aware that there are a freeze on certain federal fundings right now due to COVID-19. So therefore, we are still seeking additional funds to add to what we already have. So he could have sold the property in July.
Don't let him fool you, boo.
For how much?
For $740,000.
Don't let him, he just telling you that.
I know, this is why we backed out. This is why I
Don't
told
let him
him, I
fool
said,
you.
we're gonna put everything on hold, because at this time, I cannot sign a sale agreement, purchase a sale agreement, when the funds are not in hand, when they're not available. So he met with his investors, which is majority of his family and some other private investors, and replied back to me that they would like to sell the property to the housing authority and keep their father's dream of maintaining affordable housing in Anson County.
Betty, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
I'm familiar with the housing authority. Your funds you receive, how much do you receive a year?
For his federal funding, basically we receive maybe $500,000 a year for public housing funding, and then possibly $3,000 to $4,000 a year for Section 8. Now, let me say this: the fundings for Section 8 cannot be used for public housing
That's right.
fund. It's earmarked, and I can only use that funding for Section 8 only. Public housing is used for public housing, and we may receive additional fundings, because right now I have a project going on renovating the apartments, which is called Capital Fund. And so therefore, we could receive in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $400,000 a year capital fund money. But that money is earmarked for certain projects to upgrade the property. We have 3 properties that we manage, and to avoid taking this money out of our operating budget, I apply for capital funds money every year. So therefore, the public housing program received the majority of the money, but I cannot use that public housing fund to earmark for purchasing properties such as this.
Okay, now, the other 3 properties, who own those property, housing authority?
Which other 3? Are you talking about the complex?
Earlwood,
We have Myrtlewood, Sykes Avenue, and the site near, used to be One Summer. All of those 3 properties are waste for housing. And then we have the Section 8 program, which we do assist. Currently, we're assisting about 116 families throughout the county that live in private homes, assist them in rental assistance program. And then we assist the 24 families at Laura Company's apartment. So right now, we are aware it is a challenge. It's a challenge to maintain families in their homes, in their housing. I have sat with several agencies where families has been homeless, and we try to seek and get them moved in fast, which, you know, Department of Housing tell us to try your very best to maintain everyone in their house in, you know, circumstances, and do try to help the homeless. But we are still yet limited, very limited.
How long has this property been on sale?
A little over a year.
A little over a year.
Over a
That's
year.
interesting.
When he approached me, actually, before he did the final sale, that he finally decided that he was gonna sell. He approached
In other words,
me
he
first.
just sat on it for years.
He sat on it for a year to decide whether or not he was going to sell it, and then he approached me in beginning of 2019.
I understand completely what's going on.
Yes, so here, I am here because this is the county, the residents here are county residents. To seek any additional funding or grant or financial support from the county.
Make the board aware of who his parents is, his ancestors is here.
I think they relate, to my knowledge, the Burns family from Anson County. They are related to the Burns family of Anson County.
Mr. Monroe, is this something that, Mr. Brayley, could help them with as far as looking for grants? And also, Ms. Leslie Mazingo, who is, a lobbyist for Central Atlanta at the, federal level, also does that. And if you contact her, I have her information, they might be able to help, Ms. Huntley look for some grants that will cover the shortfall that they have.
We've been in contact with Ms. Huntley, and
Yeah,
we
okay.
have, I haven't reached out to the COG in that regard. However, Mr. Brayley has been in response, has responded to Ms. Huntley's request. But it really is to bring it to the board to see if there was any other avenues, I'm assuming is what we came here for as well. I can look up other things as well, look up other grants opportunities as well.
What is your
There's no
opinion?
way that building's worth that much money.
That's right, that's exactly right.
What is your opinion of this, Mr. Monroe?
Not just one, it's just a representation.
Oh, how many buildings are there?
How many units are
There are 24 units,
24.
24 one-bedroom units.
24 houses like the one we're looking at?
24
Yes,
units.
24
That's
units. 24 apartments, 24 apartments.
When you look at that, Bobby, that's like a duplex.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Is it, go
Thank
over
you.
there, right over there.
It housed 2 families per building.
Mr. Monroe, what's your opinion on it?
I think it needs some more, we need to talk about it. There's a lot of potential need for, it's not a potential, there's a lot of need in the community. And the idea of securing a affordable housing for elderly citizens, I would think is a priority for the board and for the community. However, going about it, it's gonna require some thought and some real discussion. But right now, I would say we need to talk about it and think best ways we can move forward, if the county should support it or not.
Mr. Monroe, since I've been on this board, we have did several scattered housing grants, like the one down at PD. We did several around the county. Is the government still offering scattered housing?
Scattered housing, I'm not so sure. Urgent repair, scattered housing, and something else. I forget which one was pulled out. But the CDBG stuff, I'm not as versed on right now. I could do some research to look into that.
Okay, Miss Huntley, and I commend you, I always tell you, on your service.
Thank
You and Miss Spencer, excellent job. Sent a lady over there about 6 weeks ago that was in her vehicle. She
Thank
told
you.
me what a great job you did. But this is, and if I'm wrong, I ask God all the time to show me where I'm wrong at. He said that all of that about wanting to do what his mama and them vision was and this and that, and he got 2 or 3 people. Ain't nobody offered him that kind of money. Not in Anson County.
Not in Anson
Amen.
County,
No.
this is true.
No,
I
they
agree
haven't.
with you, not in Anson County, but it has been somewhere
College
down
Bluff.
in the,
College Bluff on it
Raleigh and Wilmington. Oh, we did when we backed out.
And sold again though, has he?
Yeah. We backed out and he reconsidered his time period because actually he wanted to end the sale and finalize everything by September the 30th of this year.
Okay, Ms. Huntley, the manager will be working with you and
Okay.
relaying back to the board.
Okay.
And
Thank you so
we
much
thank you for coming tonight.
for your time and consideration. Thank you.
But, continued negotiation may be also part of the, county manager's involvement with this thing as well.
Thank you.
If we just keep us informed.
We'll take advantage of that lady.
Mr. James Lowry.
First, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to hear me today. I'd like to bring to the commission's attention, something that's been going on for the last several weeks here in Anson County. I don't know if you are aware, but self-help evictions have been outlawed in this state since 1981, which means that a landlord cannot do anything to evict a tenant except for take them to court. If they turn off utilities, if they ask you repeatedly to leave, all of those are violations of the law. So I'd like to refer you to a couple of North Carolina statutes, 75-1, 75-2.1, and they read that every contract, combination in form of trust or otherwise, or conspiracy in restraint of trade or commerce, which would be me obtaining water at my house, in the state of North Carolina is hereby declared illegal. Every person or corporation who shall make any such contract expressly or shall knowingly be a party thereof by implication or shall engage in any such combination or conspiracy shall be guilty of a Class H felony. And I say this because for 3 weeks, this is Ms. DeGaulle. She's the owner of the house that I live in. We have an oral contract which she put on her hand and swore to and affirmed that we have. And we have a deposit, but yet the water department refuses to give us service. We have not had water in our house in 3 weeks. I have 4 children, including a newborn grandchild, that we are not allowed to get connection to county water, which I feel is discriminatory because everybody else, he says that we have to own the house. But anybody else can take a lease and a deposit just as we did and go up there and get their services turned on. I refer you again to 75-2.1. Monopolizing and attempting to monopolize is prohibited in the state of North Carolina. It is unlawful for any person to monopolize or attempt to monopolize or combine or conspire with any other person, which is what they are doing with Ms. Segal, because she refuses to let service be connected at the house, to manipulate any part of trade or commerce in the state of North Carolina. So that is 2 general statutes. The Attorney General, which I called today, and I quote, says that in the state of North Carolina, if the landlord includes services in rent without charging metered rates, can they terminate utility services? No. At no point can any landlord take it upon herself to disconnect utilities for anything in North Carolina. That is called self-help, and you automatically are not entitled to eviction. So I ask you why we cannot get public service to a utility that is the only one provided in this county. We don't have a choice to go anywhere else.
Mr. Attorney.
Sir, this is 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to remind the board that this is the section which he can make statements, but this is not for you to respond. This is not a matter for the board to respond to.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lyle, we appreciate the information. Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Well, before we get on any further in our conversation, I'd like to acknowledge Miss Rashonda Terry. Chief.
Terry.
We know the generals, every 10 years, the federal government has to put on, by constitutional responsibility, the United States Census. And as such, it's very important that the county make sure it gets, I'm sorry, okay. But as such, it requires that we do as best we can to count every person who lives within the borders of the United States. This year has been a very difficult year to do that with COVID-19. We assigned a complete count committee at the beginning of this year, and Ms. Terry has led it remarkably, has done a great job getting out to the community, finding ways to reach out to people who would normally not be counted, and increasing our self-response rate. Without her efforts, we would not get to the number we will be at the end of this year. Ms. Terry stepped up a great deal. I asked her to do this, and she took ownership of the entire project. And because of that, I didn't have to worry about anything. So the numbers that we're going to receive, that's going to hopefully be an increase than what we have. Going back against the trend that we've noticed over the last little bit, Ms. Terry has put forth more effort toward this than a normal volunteer would have, and I appreciate the efforts and the time that she put into it. So as such, I wanted to recognize her with our Above and Beyond Award.
Is the police out there to make sure that gentleman don't tear up my car?
Mine either, ma'am.
Yeah, I need to talk to
I
you.
drive a gray Chevrolet truck.
Ma'am, please.
Great job. Speak.
First of all, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners. This was not a one-person effort. This was not a one-person committee. I could not have done what I did, and I could not have reached the people that I reached without the help of my committee members. That consisted of various department heads, people that work for the county government, and other community partners within Anson County. I thank them so much. When I called on them at the last minute, they were more than helpful, especially during this time, to do what we could do in a creative manner to reach the population and to educate them the importance of the census. You all know that the census come every 10 years. I only have numbers for self-responses, which are the people who either did it online, mailed, or by phone. Currently, Anson County is a little over 52%. 10 years ago, our numbers were 55%. So we're about 2.8% difference from 10 years ago to now, which to me, considering 2020, that's pretty darn good. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I thank Baron for the opportunity, and when 2030 comes around, I know you'll still be here. I hope to still be here. Give me a call. I'll sit on the committee again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Terry, for the job you did and doing. I'm sorry.
So,
Continue.
yeah, just one more thing that I wanted to bring to the board's information, bring it to light. And it's the LGC. Today we went before the LGC to speak on behalf of the application that we have going for the DSS lease proposition, and we were voted to come back in 3 months. So it wasn't necessarily an up or down vote, but that we need to come back in 3 months with what they felt to be a little more solid example of financial reporting, and basically to the board, more information provided to you. The state auditor recommended that as the best policy going forward. We think that we will continue to work toward making this thing happen, but we've had a little bump in the road with this situation. So as of right now, that's where we are.
Do you think we may have the same problem with the school when it comes around?
I think we might have the same problem going to the LGC for anything, be it for taking out debt on our behalf, the school's behalf, entering into a lease. They treat it the same way. So we will have the same problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I have to report this morning, Miss Priscilla Lula and myself, we, went down to Ashburn on Friday. The new facility that San Hill have, well, it was an older building, they remodeled it, and it's a mental health facility now for mental patients, and I know the sheriff gonna really like it because it's only an hour and a half drive for him now. And that is a 16-bed unit, and their problem now, they will be staffed as soon as they get it staffed. The sheriff and will be able to take mental patients to that facility, and probably within the next month, the new facility on number 1 is for children that San Hill is building, and that's a 16-bed unit, and that will help the sheriff also be closer to transport these patients to. So the sheriff, myself, and others, the manager, we've been talking to San Hill, hoping we can do something here, so we're still working on it. And at this time, we'll go ahead and do J. I think it was about the CARE Act, the money that was the towns will receive.
Radio. Radio.
So at this time, direct your question to Mr. Monroe or Kerry.
Okay,
Okay, the concern, that's been brought to our attention is our current radio system has a feature that's not gonna be on what we're going to, because we're going to an over-the-air system as far as Viper's concerned. Right now, the system that we currently have, any first responder, law enforcement, or whatever, there's a button that they press, and it automatically sends a message to 911 that they're in distress, so they can get immediate response. And the system that we're going to doesn't have that. Also, the other part of it is I understand, 'cause I think some of them are here, is that we need a hardline system. Because right now, if our 911 system goes down, we're out of business. We have no backup. But a hardline system will allow other counties to step right in just after notification and take care of our 911 communication until our system is back up. So I think we need to reconsider what we're doing with the funding for the Viper system, so that we don't shortcut any of our first responders or law enforcement or anything like that.
Especially the officer down.
Yes.
I'm very concerned with this, cause I was with Ansonville Ambulance Service, Fire and Rescue for 37 years. And I know how important it is to make contact, to save people's lives, it saves the first responders. You need the best contact you can get. And we got Rodney Diggs here and others that can tell me more about it, what we need. And I think he knows where somebody will pay 70% of what we're doing. Would you like to tell us, Rodney? We want all people to have the best they can have, and the lives depend on it.
We're all for saving money, there's no doubt about that. But, and Mr. Monroe, started the project moving the Viper forward with the county. Doing so to save money, we looked at over the air, which we thought would work, and that's what was voted on. And then we started, this weekend we found out the man down button will not work with over the air. So in talking to Motorola, which Viper is a Motorola system, they're saying you possibly can make it work. It's gonna be somewhere around $100,000 or $60,000 to make the man down button work. But then we're gonna have to have another $45,000 to be able to have surrounding counties patch through if they come over here to help us, or if they talk law enforcement, fire, EMS, or whatever. It's another $45,000, basically $100,000 to make it work, where we can talk to surrounding counties and the man down button work. Or the $100,000 you can put in consoles, that's hardwired in. It could be a hardwire with the Newton, and the man down button will work, and they'll be able to patch the counties together a whole lot easier, and there won't be any more money for that. they're saying that the 911 board will pay for 70% of that project. He sent prices today for 5 consoles and 4 consoles. 4 consoles was right around $95,000. The 5 consoles was around $105,000. And this system can be upgraded as we go. You don't have to buy everything today, but you are gonna have to have enough for the dispatchers to be able to dispatch from the get-go. With it being hardwired in, if our system goes down and whether the 911 board is moving to EasyNet, whatever county is on the Viper system, hardwired in, Lincoln County, New Hanover County, any of those counties, they can pick up our calls.
Really,
Good
y'all
idea.
need to work with that.
Quick question though, so not knowing, you know, the ins and outs of what you guys are talking about, there's nothing wrong with what you see here. What you're talking about is in addition to this.
Yes.
And we just got to run down the funding mechanism of the addition. So the main part I was concerned about, and you guys are into this. So as part of on the amendments that you have, there's this sheet here. So if you don't consider the whole amendment until we work out, you know, what we're doing on the radios, if you don't see any problem with the part that is on line 35, it's in the last line of what you have, the
$130,000.
right, for the portion of the radio system that goes on the towers, because that is tied into the state system, and they're going to do the actual installation the way I understand it correctly. Correct?
Yes. But, no, everything's good except for that part there.
But the 130 is okay.
The 130 is okay, just that 28,
That's what we're gonna be looking at differently. So, if you entertain this amendment, I would ask at least for your consideration of at least entertaining it, the 130,000 portion, because that will not affect what these gentlemen are asking for, and it will also not affect, our cooperative agreement with the state.
And then furthermore, we can come back to you next month with a final number, regardless of, instead of buying the radios now, we come back in a month and tell you what the real amount will be. But just do the 130 right now, because that's gonna help us get ready for the system, over the next 30 days, hopefully.
Okay.
So, and we'll discuss more about what that looks like in November.
I will make the motion that we approve the fixed network infrastructure at $130,420.
Second.
And I apologize, I'll have to reallocate for the actual budget amendment, but if you'll allow me that latitude to break it down, cost of county-wise between their two departments. That's what, at least that's what, you know, we appreciate tonight.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, we need to complete that motion.
Oh, you're right. We have a motion by Commissioner Woodburn and second by, who was it?
Several.
I don't know, all the rest of them. Everybody know who was the second.
Mr. Chairman, before, I apologize, so just consulting Mr. Diggs. It appears from what we're looking at here, that the pivotal part would be what's on line 34, the 28,747. So that's the point that seems to be in contention. The radios, the portables and the mobiles that you see from lines 20 to 33, they seem to be in agreement.
Well, I would recommend that we just go ahead and stick with what we just voted on. It's clear, it's concise, and we'll get to what we need to get to later on.
Yeah, let's do that.
No, 130 is fine.
Let the motion stand as is and let them get together and figure out how to
Get the
work.
details, yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Gale.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, any business, concern, petition, announcement, or comments tonight from the commissioners?
Just took care of mine.
Anybody else? If not, I need a closed session matter to talk with our attorney and Carrie. I think Mike told gone, haven't they? Mike Sessions. closed session.
So moved.
With our attorney.
Second.
We don't have a motion, second. Thank you folks for coming tonight. You're welcome to wait on us if you want to, but we'll, for the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we make the said changes to the county manager's contract.
Second?
What they are.
What we discussed. We don't have to give the specifics, and, it's in the records if anybody don't know. We don't need to get a specific, just that we're gonna make it.
All right.
Well,
Second.
actually,
Okay, I have a
All in
motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second?